What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned that Washington never told a lie. I learned that soldiers seldom die. I learned that everybody's free. That's what the teachers said to me. That's what I learned in school today. That's what I learned in school. What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned that policemen are my friends. I learned that justice never ends. I learned that murderers die for the crimes, even if we make a mistake sometime. And that's what I learned in school today. That's what I learned in school. What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned our government must be strong. It's always right and never wrong. Our leaders are the finest men, and we elect them again and again. And that's what I learned in school today. That's what I learned in school. What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned that war is not so bad. I learned about the great ones we have had. We fought in Germany and in France, and someday I might get my chance. Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? They say in Harlan County,
people down in the southern mountains knew how to pick a banjo this way, but up north, I wasn't able to find anybody. There wasn't any book about it.
It's well known that crises in a person's life or in the life of a country give forth lots of songs. And you can call them protest songs if you want. No one can tell what a song can do. All you can do is quote people who said, well, that song changed my life, or something like that. And leaders like Dr. King have testified how important music has been in the movement. John L. Lewis said a singing movement is a winning movement.
For 50 years, I've made a living singing songs I love to sing to people who join in on the chorus, and made a living at it. I called myself a communist because when I was 7 years old, I read about the American Indians. They had no rich, no poor. If there was food, everybody ate. If there was no food, everybody went hungry. And later on, when I was about 20 years old, I meet Woody Guthrie, the fellow who wrote This Land Is Your Land. And he and I used to sing these wonderful Kentucky miners songs like Which Side Are You On for meetings of the Communist Party, and they'd sing along with us. And I still figure some of the best songs I know are songs that were put together by people who are struggling. They might have been sailors or housewives or black people in the South struggling for civil rights. And they're fun to sing. They're not just editorials in rhyme. They're good songs. My voice isn't much anymore, but I still sing them.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
Yeah, it was quite a journey from Oklahoma and Texas, California, into New York. And what we started off showing that city folks could latch on to a lot of these old traditions and join them, whether it's blues or fiddling or ballad making. And now there's not dozens of us or hundreds of us, there's thousands of us. At least, maybe there's tens of thousands for all I know.
Weaver's life is like an engine coming around a mountain steep. We've had our ups and downs aplenty, and at night we cannot sleep. Very often flag your fixer when his head is bending low. You may think that he's a loafing, but he's doing all he knows.
I was barely out of my teens when I met him. He must have liked my banjo picking because why he let me tag along after him. He was about 7 years older than I was, and he taught me things I never would have learned if I'd stayed in college. I met him just about the time I would have graduated from college. And it was really my introduction to the wide spaces out west. I was a New Englander, and I'd done a lot of reading. But he used to say, that Seeger's the youngest man I ever knew. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't chase girls.
Hang down your head, Tom Dooley, hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley, poor boy, you're bound to die. That's the chorus. Next time around, you can hum along with me. You too, Stokes.
All right.
And you too, Norman, back there behind the glass. I met her on the mountain, there I took her life. I met her on the mountain and stabbed her with my knife. Oh, hang down your head, Tom Dooley, hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley, poor boy, you're bound to die. fetch me down my banjo, I'll pick it on my knee. This time tomorrow I'll be hanging on a white oak tree. Oh, hang down your head, Tom Dooley, hang down your head and cry. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley, poor boy, you're bound to die.
Well, Cindy is a little gal, she lives way down south. She's so sweet, the honeybees swarm around her mouth. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday.
Well, I went to see my Cindy, standing behind the door, shoes and stockings in her hand, little bare feet on the floor.
Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. Oh, Cindy is a pretty girl. Cindy is a peach. Throwing her arms around my neck and hung on like a leech. Oh, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday.
The word legendary is bandied around. A lot of people claim that word legendary. Pete Seeger really is legendary. In 1955, he went before the House Committee on Un-American Activities and had the strength and courage to say, I have my right to free speech. He was sentenced to prison for that. This is a man of courage. It's amazing, he's still out there fighting for ordinary people at the age of 92. It was the 70th anniversary of the birth of John Lennon, and I produced and hosted a concert in New York City on the exact birthday of John Lennon. And among the artists we managed to get there was Pete Seeger to sing Give Peace a Chance with a choir of 9-10-year-old kids that Pete's been working with the last few years. But here's a guy who at that time was 91 who is just full of life. He insisted on coming to that concert. He drove himself from upstate New York to New York on a Saturday night, drove himself at 91 because he wanted to be there to pay tribute to John Lennon.
Then what you're saying, I mean, the basic truth here is that no song is an entity unto itself. It is, and yet somehow a folk song is
part of a long chain. It's just like humanity. It's we know none of us exist all by ourselves. We're part of a long chain, and sometimes I think the important thing is not to try and be the longest link in the chain, but simply a good, strong link, so we can keep the chain together for future generations.
Thanks a lot, Pete Seeger.
There's a feeling in music, and it carries you back down the road you have traveled and makes you travel it again. Or it takes you back down the road somebody else has come, and you can look out across the world from the hill they are standing on.
The Smothers Brothers were a big success on CBS television, and way back the year before, I think in the spring of 67, they said, CBS says, anything we can do for you?
Sometimes when I hear music, I think back over my days and a feeling that is 50-50 joy and pain swells like clouds and taking all kinds of shape in my mind.
CBS says, anything we can do for you? You're right at the top. What can we do to make you happier? And they said, let us have Seeger on. CBS said, well, we'll think about it. Finally, in October, they said, okay, you can have him on. And I sang this song, waist deep in the big muddy.
If it is joy, it is of such a treasured sort and such a fine make that the thought of its passing is near to pain.
The big fool says to push on.
That you can see how pain has paid you a profit in its own strange way. and the joy of the sadness is like a raindrop falling in the sun.
The tape was made in California, flown to New York, and in New York they scissored the song out.
Music is on the radio. I notice that as I listen. I think of my mistakes, ill words, wasted time. In the next note, I think of who I love and who I hate, and the success I've had at both, and of my tomorrow's chances. And I feel like a singing god riding on a cloud, snapping my fingers and ruling a universe.
And now the Smothers Brothers took to the print media and said, CBS is censoring our best jokes. They censored Seeger's best song, and they got some publicity. And during November, December, January, the arguments went on.
Music is a tone of voice, a sound life uses to keep the living alive, and call us back many times a day from the brinks of torture and the holes of superstition.
Finally in February, late January of 68, CBS said, okay, he can sing the song. On 6 hours notice, I flew out to California.
There never was a sound that was not music. And there's no real trick of creating words to set to music once you realize that the word is the music.
I sang Waist Deep in the Big Muddy. This time only a station in Detroit cut it out.
And the people are the song.
But the rest of the country heard it, so 7 million people heard it. Who knows? Later that month, in late February, Lyndon Johnson decided not to run for re-election.
It was back in 1942, I was a member of a good platoon. We were on maneuvers in Louisiana one night by the light of the moon. The captain told us to ford a river, that's how it all begun. We were knee-deep in the big muddy, the big fool said to push on. Well, the sergeant said, sir, are you sure this is the best way back to the base? Sergeant, go on, I forded this river about a mile above this place. It'll be a little soggy, but just keep slogging, we'll soon be on dry ground. We were waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool said to push on. The sergeant said, sir, with all this equipment, no man will be able to swim. Sergeant, don't be nervous, Nellie, the captain said to him. All we need is a little determination, men, follow me, I'll lead on. We were neck deep in the big muddy, the big fool said to push on. All at once the moon clouded over, we heard a gurgling cry. A few seconds later, the captain's helmet was all that floated by. The sergeant said, turn around, men, I'm in charge from now on. And we just made it out of the big muddy with the captain dead and gone. We stripped and dived and found his body stuck in the old quicksand. I guess he didn't know that the water was deeper than the place he'd once before been. Another stream had joined the big muddy about a half mile from where he'd gone. We were lucky to escape from the big muddy when the big fool said to push on. Well, I'm not going to point any moral, I'll leave that for yourself. Maybe you're still walking, you're still talking, you'd like to keep your health. But every time I read the paper, them old feelings come on. We're waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool says to push on. Waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool says to push on. Waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool says to push on. Waist deep, Neck deep, soon even a tall man will be over his head. We're waist deep in the big muddy. The big fool says to push on.
If in effect, you were kept, your voice was kept off the airwaves till 1967 or so. Is it when
when the Smothers, but even after that, I didn't get offered that.
Well, why? Jobs. Because you came back with a big punch. you didn't come back with a wimpy little thing of ha ha ha. You came back with waist deep in the big muddy.
There's an old Arab proverb. If when the king puts the poet on his payroll, he cuts off the tongue of the poet. I look upon it almost as a joke. And admittedly, the blacklist ruined some people's lives. They'd spent their lives trying to build a business. Now they're out of business. Have to make a living some other way. But for me, it was that didn't want to become rich. I found that I'd go from school to school to school, and the poor blacklist didn't know how to stop it. It was almost a joke. I call it cultural guerrilla tactics.
In this creation, 3 months work, 9 vacations. Tell the boss any old time. The daytime's his, but the nighttime's mine. Green coffee, come along and tell it. Green
oh, ye playboys and playgirls, ain't gonna run my world. Ain't gonna run my world. Ain't gonna run my world. Ye playboys and playgirls, ain't gonna run my world. Not now or no other time.
You all can sing this with us even if you've never heard it before, because only one line changes each verse.
If all that shelter sellers can't get in my door, can't get in my door, can't get in my door. If all that shelter sellers
I often think, it's easy for a person living up in safety to sing about freedom, but to really know how to sing those songs, maybe you'd have to face the dogs, face the hoses and the water, and go to jail. As these 4 young people have gone to jail not once or twice, but some of them as many as a dozen or 2 dozen times during the past 2 years, trying to make our country a more democratic country. Here they are, freedom singers.
And I felt so hot and stuffy that I didn't know what to do. I was fighting for my rights. Whoa, I was fighting for my rights.
So that's what Pete's done his whole life. He sings all the verses all the time, especially the ones that we'd like to leave out of our history as a people. At some point, Pete Seeger decided he'd be a walking, singing reminder of all of America's history. He'd be a living archive of America's music and conscience, a testament to the power of song and culture to nudge history along, to push American events towards more humane and justified ends. He would have the audacity and the courage to sing in the voice of the people. Now, despite Pete's somewhat benign grandfatherly appearance, he is a creature of a stubborn, defiant, and nasty optimism. He carries, inside him, he carries a steely toughness that belies that grandfatherly facade, and it won't let him take a step back from the things he believes in. At 90, he remains a stealth dagger through the heart of our country's illusions about itself. Pete Seeger still sings all the verses all the time. And he reminds us of our immense failures as well as shining a light toward our better angels in the horizon where the country we've imagined and hold dear, we hope, awaits us. And on top of it, never wears their own sleeves.
Men walking along the railroad tracks, going someplace there's no going back. Highway patrol choppers coming up over the ridge. Hot soup on a campfire under the bridge. Shelter lines stretching round the corner. Welcome to the New World Order. Families sleeping in their cars in the Southwest. No home, no job, no peace, no rest. The highway is alive tonight, but nobody's kidding nobody about where it goes. I'm sitting down here in the campfire light, searching for the ghost of Tom Joad.
He pulls a prayer book out of a sleeping bag. Preacher lights up a butt antiques drag, waiting for when the last shall be first and the first shall be last. In a cardboard box neath the underpass, we've got a one-way ticket to the promised land. You got a hole in your belly and a gun in your hand, sleeping on a pillow of solid rock, bathing in the city aqueduct.
The highway is alive tonight.
The highway is alive tonight,
but nobody's kidding nobody about where it goes.
Where it's headed.
I'm sitting down here in the campfire light,
sitting down here in the campfire light,
searching for the ghost of Tom Joad.
Waiting on the ghost of Tom Joad.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, little boxes, little boxes all the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all go to the university, and they all get put in boxes, little boxes all the same. And there's doctors and there's lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And they all play on the golf course and drink their martini dry, and they all have pretty children, and the children go to school, and the children go to summer camp, and then to the university, and they all get put in boxes, and they all come out the same. And the boys go into business and marry and raise a family, and they all get put in boxes, little boxes all the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same.
O sacred world now wounded, we pledge to make you free of hate, of war and hunger and selfish cruelty. And here in our small corner we plant a tiny seed, and it will grow to beauty to shame the face of greed.
Sailing down my dirty stream, still I love it, and I'll keep the dream that someday, though maybe not this year, my Hudson River will once again run clear. It starts high in the mountains of the north, crystal clear and icy trickles forth, with just a few floating wrappers of chewing gum, dropped by some hikers to warn of things to come. At Glens Falls, 5,000 honest hands work at the consolidated paper plant. 5 million gallons of waste a day. Why should we do it any other way? Down the valley, 1 million toilet chains find my Hudson so convenient place to drain. And each little city says, who, me? Do you think that sewage plants come free? Out in the ocean they say the water's clear, but I live right at Beacon here, halfway between the mountains and the sea. Tacking to and fro, this thought returns to me. Well, it's sailing up my dirty stream, still I love it and I'll dream that someday, though maybe not this year, my Hudson River and my country will run clear. Oh, here's the old words. Didn't old John cross the water under eyes and knees? Didn't old John cross the water eyes and knees? Let us all bow down to the Lord and face.
Where have all the young girls gone? Taken husbands, everyone. When will you ever learn? When will you ever learn? Where have all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young men gone? They're all in uniform. Oh, when will we ever learn? When will we ever learn?
Have you been, my blue-eyed son? Where have you been, my darling young one? I've strayed on the side of 12 misty mountains. I've walked and I've crawled in 6 crooked forests. Walked and I've strayed on 6 crooked highways. Been out in front of a dozen dead oceans. Been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard. It's hard, 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 hard. It's a hard rain.
Live from Clearwater.
Jackhammer man, born with a jackhammer in his hand. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Build your roads and your buildings too, I'm gonna build me a dam or two. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Hammered on the Bonneville, hammered on the Butte, Columbia River on a 5-mile shoot. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Hammered on the Bonneville, hammered all night. Had to bring the people some electric light.
Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues. When I was born in Portland town, built every fort from Alaska down. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Been in jail 1,000 times.
Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Jackhammer, jackhammer, where you been? Been out chasing them gals again. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues. Got a jackhammer down, it's as sweet as pie. I'm gonna hammer till the day I die. Lord, Lord, got them jackhammer blues.
Sir, I'm of two minds about you. I hate to say.
Me too.
Really? Okay, well, I'll tell you mine. You tell me yours, all right? Obviously, it's an honor to have you on. You're a living legend. You're a giant. It's like having Paul Bunyan or Johnny Appleseed on. No, it absolutely is, which is great because I could never get those guys to come on. You know, you're a political activist, American folk singer. You're key in the folk music revival. You got Grammys, Lifetime Legend Award from the Library of Congress, even enshrinement in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you have a new book called Pete Seeger in His Own Words. You're 93, yes, sir?
That's what I'm told.
How do you look good for 93? Because I'm 48 and you couldn't stick a fork in me. I'm done. How do you keep active at 93?
Well, I live in the country and I get a chance to do some outdoor work. And I try.
Like outdoor work? Like what? Like breathing? Like what is outdoor work? At 93, what is outdoor work?
Well, we heat our house by wood, so I'm splitting logs from time to time.
You split logs at 93.
But
I were to be given the opportunity to pick the fifth face on Mount Rushmore,
Put some effort into life.
I would nominate Pete Seeger.
Now, you helped plant the seeds. Here's why I'm of the other mind. Obviously, I admire your work, your commitment to staying active. Your influence in American culture, however, is questionable. You helped create the folk revival. That creates Bob Dylan, your Joan Baez, creates your Woodstock, your sexual revolution. That leads to Bill Clinton and then gay marriage. You proud of your work there, Banjo Man? Let's talk about some of the songs you're best known for. If I Had a Hammer. Where Have All the Flowers?
I just wrote the tune.
You wrote the tune?
Yeah.
Still, not a bad thing to have on your resume. You don't sell any of the rights to your music for commercials.
Sometimes. I
Oh,
guess.
really?
I can't think I'm that picky.
Oh, I had heard that you didn't. Because that's wonderful. Because I think it would be great if, like, Miracle Grow had Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Or Stanley Tools had If I Had a Hammer. If I had a hammer, I'd use it to actually hammer.
Hey up, away, 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 away. Hey up,
At one time, I was a member of the Communist Party for a few
I'm getting
years.
to that. I'm getting to that. In 1955, you refused to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Okay. Would you like to name names now? I'll start. Pete Seeger.
hey up,
When I was asked to perform this duty, I found myself being very grateful to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it meant that someplace in America there would be a standing edifice that would embody a small place in which millions and millions of young people would be able to glean a small bit of truth about a man who is one of the great sons of this great country. America can boast about many of her sons and daughters, but America is truly fortunate to have Pete Seeger. If I were to be given the opportunity to pick the fifth face on Mount Rushmore, I would nominate Pete Seeger. For those of us who have looked upon art as a curious gift, this very same America, with men who sat in powerful places, who sought to rob this country of its soul, rob it of its truth, moved about unimpeded, crushing the lives of thousands of men and women, many of whom were artists. Pete Seeger was one of those, but he stood strong, he stood tall, and those of us who were also victims of that same cruelty could call upon Pete and his strength to find a way to combat this great evil through the use of art and a song. To know how profound that really is, you would have to have walked some of the streets that I have walked. You'd have had to have been in camps where wars of liberation were being fought by men and women who were seeking to get rid of the heels of oppression, and who could, in so doing, call upon a song to help inspire them to fulfill their great task in overthrowing injustice. When I walked through the Andes of Latin America and South America, in Peru, Ecuador, in Chile, Pete Seeger has been there. When I've been to the kibbutzim in Israel, and I move among the young settlers in the Negev, the songs they sing tell me that Pete Seeger has been there. Long before I knew who Nelson Mandela was, Pete Seeger brought into the fold of song a song called Wimoweh, which spoke to the plights of young South Africans seeking to overthrow apartheid. It was Pete and the Weavers who struck a chord in us to help illuminate the way. When we were in Tennessee, struggling to find a way in which to defeat the unjust laws of segregation, one night in Tennessee, waiting for the Ku Klux Klan to descend upon us, Pete Seeger took out his banjo, reached into the recesses of a quiet place and brought forth a song called We Shall Overcome. Dr. King sitting there, although this song was part of his racial heritage, did not know it. And when he heard Pete sing it, he said, what a great song for the movement. And that's when We Shall Overcome became the banner for those of us who are in the quest of justice. As I have been about the world, in nations where people have sought to find a place in the sun, when they sing We Shall Overcome, I always think of Pete Seeger. I'm thankful to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because somewhere all this history, all this truth, all this power shall be unfolded to those who will not find much of this truth anyplace else. We are in a dark period. This country is struggling for its soul. It's looking for truth. There are those who would denounce us as artists because we try to go into those places and we're told we have no place in politics. When in fact, the only thing that has really and truly inspired the progress of the human race has been culture and art and the song. I thank for Pete Seeger singing Goodnight, Irene, and helping me to discover Lead Belly, a man who sat down in the heart of Mississippi on the chain gang, giving America some of the greatest songs it had ever heard. I thank Pete Seeger, Tsena, that brought to many who were anti-Semitic an inspired moment to sing a song that they didn't even know where it came from. There are two men, Paul Robeson and Pete Seeger. And I remember once in a discussion with them, they concluded, and I've always felt this to be the greatest center of my own truth. It says, get them to sing your song, and they will want to know who you are. And if they've made that first step, we can find a solution to hate.
We are not afraid. We shall overcome someday. Darling, here in my heart, yeah, just believe we shall overcome someday.
I had a vision a few years ago. I was walking down a busy New York street, and suddenly Woody walks around the corner looking just like he did 50 years earlier. And I said, Woody, I thought you were dead. And he says, oh, that was my twin brother. Me and Marge weren't getting along, so I just decided to go off to Australia or someplace they didn't know me. But now I figured I'd come back to see you all. And I said, Woody, I'm on the way to visit a friend of ours. Come along. He says, well, I'll see you there. And as he turned to the other corner and went outside, I'm just a prune of your imagination. It's a figment of your imagination. I'm just a prune of your imagination.
We shall live in peace someday. Darling, here in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
man from this land of palm trees. Before dying, I want to share these poems of my soul. My verses are light green, but they are also flaming red. The next verse says, I cultivate a rose in June and in January for the sincere friend who gives me his hand, and for the cruel one who would tear out this heart with which I live. I do not cultivate thistles nor nettles. I cultivate a white rose.
Cultivo la rosa blanca en junio como en enero. Cultivo la rosa blanca en junio como en enero. Para el amigo sincero que me da su mano franca. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Y para el cruel que me arranca el corazón con que vivo, y para el cruel que me arranca el corazón con que vivo, cardón y ortigo cultivo la rosa blanca. Guantanamera, Guajira,
Okay, start her off.
Rock out a line of rock out a line of rock out a line of. If you want to ride it, ride it like you finally get to take it at the station at the rock out a line. We'll rock out a line of mighty good road. We'll rock out a line of road to ride. We'll rock out a line of mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like you finally get to take it at the station at the rock out a line. Well, the ABC and the XYZ. Cats in the corner, but they can't see. Oh, the Rock Island Line is a mighty good road. The Rock Island Line is the road to ride. The Rock Island Line is a mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like you finally get the ticket at the station at the Rock Island Line. All right.
Plus it'll go back the other direction again. Build the road of peace before us. Build it wide and deep and long. Speed the slow, remind the eager, help the weak and guide the strong. None shall push aside another, none shall let another fall. Work beside me, sisters and brothers, all for one and one for all.
Friends, at age 94, I don't have much voice left. But here's a song I think you know, and if you sing it, why, we'll make a good sound. If I had a hammer, I hammer in the morning, a hammer in the evening, all over this land. A hammer, danger, warning, a hammer at the wall, this love, a hammer at the between the brothers and sisters.
One day, the sun goes below. The first people that got up and looked out the window, they saw a great big shadow in front of the sun, and they could feel the whole ground shake. came to the cow pasture, grabs a whole cow. Let me out, grab your most precious possessions and run! Just then, the boy and his father woke up. I think they'd been up late the night before, or partying or something. The boy rubs his eyes and says, "Hey, Tom, what's coming over the field?" And his father says, "Oh, son, it's Uncle Yo-Yo. Oh, if only I could get him to lie down, I could make him disappear." The boy says,
In later years, he channeled his protests into environmental causes, particular to cleaning up the Hudson River, beside which he built his home.
Music at its best helps us not only to forget our troubles, but at its best helps us understand our troubles. And occasionally music helps us do something about our troubles.
He became a father figure to social activists, a man who saw music as more than just entertainment.
"This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine."
All hostile attitudes on board must be eliminated. The fighting must end, and soon.
Oh, we're a doomed ship. We've got to pool our knowledge.
We must
Find a way to defeat the alien force of hate. Stop the war now or spend eternity in futile, bloody violence.
It has to stop.
Look, gang, for the rest of our lives. 1,000 lifetimes. Senseless violence. Fighting. While an alien has total control over us. It really goes on and on. Good old game of war, pawn against pawn. Stopping the bad guy.